Welcome back. All right, this is our last assignment in Unit 1 that was given to you to complete, okay? Yes, it says New York State practice test. If you have heard, we are not doing the state test this year. However, it is very important that you still know the skills, okay? In place of the state test, I am going to take this as a test grade. Now, I will explain all the directions. I'm going to read the story to you because I know some of you do a little bit better when you can hear the words versus reading it yourself. So I will read it to you. I will explain the questions, and then this is what I expect as a test grade when we come back, okay? You can ask me any questions that you may have on it. If the time comes where your assignments need to be handed in, you can always have your parents screenshot all of your answers and send them to me, or we will come up with an alternative method. Now, because I'm taking this as a test, you can ask your parents for help, but please do not make your parents give you the answers. That's not a fair grade to what you know, and you have to be honest with yourself if you struggled or not, okay? This will not affect your grade that much. We have plenty of other grades that we will go by, okay? So don't worry about that aspect. All right, so I'm going to read the story to you, and then I'll explain the directions, and then I'm going to leave you all to be on your own, all right? So this is called A Time of Discovery and Rediscovery. It's by Nancy Day, okay? Italy had awakened from a 1,000-year slumber, or so it seemed in 15th century Italians. They felt that the 5th century sacking of Rome by invading tribes was a bitter pill that had put the world to sleep. They began to call the centuries that followed the Dark Ages. The time period in which they lived was the Renaissance, or rebirth. Was their comparison fair? Historians disagree. What is clear is that the Renaissance was a remarkable time of discovery and rediscovery that changed the world. In 1347, a merchant ship sailed from Crimea on the Black Sea to Sicily. On board were rats infested with fleas that carried a disease called the plague. Okay, now plague just means disease. Soon after, the plague swept through Italy and the rest of Europe. It killed more than 1/3 of the population. Cities shrank, production slowed, and prices dropped. Rather than give in to the low grain prices, Italians switched to more profitable products such as wine, oil, and cheese. As wool exports fell, they turned to silk. Gradually, Italy began to specialize in luxuries such as artistic metalwork, fine leather, and beautiful furniture. The northern Italian city-states, including Venice, Milan, and Florence, prospered. So did the papal states of central Italy and the kingdoms of Napoli and Sicily to the south. Money brought education for the privileged few. Learning had previously focused on religious studies. It expanded to include grammar, rhetoric, okay, which is the study of how to use language and to kind of persuade people. Okay, so you have the definitions right down here. History, poetry, and moral philosophy. Wealthy Italians thought that these subjects would lead to a greater understanding of human nature and give them an advantage in business. Renaissance Italians turned to ancient Rome as the model for a great civilization. Lawyers studied Roman law. Others discovered the joy of reading classical books. They became interested in poetry, history, and philosophy. Before long, scholars were rediscovering Greek and Roman art, science, and literature. In the Middle Ages, the church had taught people to think about the afterlife. During the Renaissance, people wanted to enjoy life on earth. Enthusiasm for games, sports, and entertainment blossomed. Music flourished. Individual expression and accomplishment became important. The 14th century Italian poet and scholar Petrarch spent countless hours studying ancient texts. He left a detailed record of his thoughts and activities. The ideal was to be well-rounded. A Renaissance man was supposed to be skilled in all the arts and sciences. A perfect example was Leonardo da Vinci. He was a painter, a sculptor, architect, musician, engineer, and scientist. Interest in humanity brought realism to art. The great sculptor Donatello, while working on a particularly lifelike work, was heard saying to the stone, "Speak then! Why will you not speak?" Painters drew everyday people and natural settings in faces that showed each individual's personality and emotions. Art stimulated interest in anatomy, mathematics, and even physics. Leonardo's famous flying machine, for example, was designed to make a decorative angel flap its wings when pulled through the streets during Carnival. Leonardo also studied anatomy by dissecting human bodies. Gross, but true. This enabled him to draw detailed studies of human figures. The Renaissance achievement that had the greatest effect on the modern world was the printing press. It was invented by a German craftsman named Johannes Gutenberg around 1455. The press revolutionized education and standardized language. Before the printing press, books were reproduced by hand. As a result, few were readily available, and they were very expensive. With the invention of printing, the number of books in circulation increased. The cost of a book decreased. As more and more people bought books, the ideas of the Renaissance spread quickly. Italy was located in the heart of the greatest trading area of the time. It became the center not only of trade, but also of art, culture, and ideas. By the end of the 15th century, the Renaissance had spread to Germany. From there, it spread to France, England, and Spain. Not everyone experienced a Renaissance. Most women had few liberties. A 14th century merchant expressed the common attitude toward the female gender. If you have a woman in your house, keep them shut up as much as possible, and return home very often and keep them in fear and trembling. Laborers, servants, tradesmen, and apprentices also had little say in the rules that controlled their lives. In addition, they were poor and illiterate. As the decades passed, the artistic, cultural, scientific, and intellectual achievements of the period between 1350 and 1550 gradually affected all levels of society. For scholars, philosophers, and artists of the time, the Renaissance led Western civilization from the Middle Ages to modern times. Okay, so liberties just means rights, and illiterate means you're not able to read or write. So, I read this story to you. If you need to listen to it again, please rewind the video, listen to it, okay? I know it sounds like a tough story, but I know you guys have this. So, first up is some multiple choice questions, okay? Look for those keywords, highlight them, underline them. So this one's, for example, the main idea. Okay, this is once included in a summary of the article. Okay, look for those details. Okay, question 3 says, according to paragraph 2, why is a 1347 Crimean ship historically important? Okay, use 2 details from the text. Make sure you're going to paragraph 2, okay? You know that the readings have the numbers right on the side. You guys are very good at locating those. You have another multiple choice question, okay? Another question we're familiar with. They give you some sentences from the paragraph. Remember, always look to the sentences before and after, because sometimes they can give you the answer. What were the effects of Gutenberg inventing the printing press? So what were 2 things that happened because of having the printing press? Think about cost. Think about how books were made, okay? 7, according to the article, why was Leonardo da Vinci a perfect example of Renaissance man? Remember, Renaissance man, they wanted to do everything. They wanted to be good at everything. So look back, find where it talks about Leonardo da Vinci being good at multiple things. Okay, use 2 details from the article. Which statement best describes the main idea? In paragraph 5, so make sure you go back to paragraph 5. You have 2 more multiple choice questions on page 86. 87, you have another that wants you to look at paragraphs 4 through 10. And 12 says in paragraph 10, what does the phrase "in the heart" suggest about Italy? Okay, use 2 details from the text. Then you have the extended response. Okay, we haven't done too many of these, but I do want you to try your best. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take all the questions before it as 1 grade, And this as just a separate grade so that it's not going to affect your score that much. But I do want you to really try and answer this to the best of your ability. Explain the effects the plague had in Italy. So I would put that as one body paragraph. Explain how the effects of the plague made the Renaissance possible. I'd put that in another body paragraph. So you might want a total of 4. An intro, 2 bodies, and then a closing, okay? This last bullet point just says use details from the article. So make sure you're getting your information. Use phrases such as for example, for instance, according to the author. This proves that, this shows that, okay? Those are the types of things I'm going to look for when I grade your work, okay? So remember, if you have any questions about any of these, please ask. I ask that if you do get your parents' help, that they do not give you the answers, okay? That's not fair to your grade, all right? You want it to show what you learned. It's not going to affect your grade that much. Like I said, I'm going to take all the questions before the extended response as a separate grade because you should do very well in those. The extended response here, okay? We have done quite a few in class, but usually I guide you and give you the information. I am not doing that this time. We are going to take it as if it is an actual test, okay? So good luck. Please pause, rewind, rewatch, anything that you need to in the videos, okay? And when we were able to meet back together, or if we come up with an alternative solution, I will be taking these as 2 separate grades, all right? So good luck. I know you all can do this. Take your time. Remember TADDW to answer short response questions. Okay? You have all the skills in your brain. Take the time to apply them.